Hollywood is buzzing after Danny DeVito, beloved actor and television staple, was abruptly removed from the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live in a startling exchange that caught everyone off guard. What was meant to be a relaxed promotional guest spot turned into a tense confrontation, revealing a very different side of Jimmy Kimmel from his usual polished on-air persona. In what many are calling a blatant display of disrespect, Kimmel pushed DeVito to his limit, transforming a standard interview into a scene of open hostility that has industry insiders talking. This isn't just another rumor, it's a revealing look into the behind-the-scenes power dynamics of late-night TV. Stay tuned as we break down exactly what happened, and don't forget to subscribe and share your take in the comments. This story offers a glimpse into the real Jimmy Kimmel like never before. According to several crew members who witnessed the situation firsthand, the tension began long before DeVito even walked onto the stage. The seasoned actor arrived at the studio in high spirits, joking with crew, swapping stories from his long career, and showing appreciation for the staff. Danny was all class, one lighting tech noted. He asked everyone's names, thanked people for their hard work, just made everyone feel comfortable. DeVito was there to talk about his latest project, a gritty indie film, already getting serious awards buzz, and he seemed genuinely thrilled to discuss it with Kimmel's audience. But the tone changed dramatically when Kimmel arrived, reportedly less than an hour before the taping. Sources say the host was clearly in a bad mood, snapping at staff and largely ignoring DeVito during their brief pre-show introduction. Jimmy didn't even look him in the eye, a production assistant claimed. He was ranting about the segment order, saying he didn't have time for another actor with an ego. It was totally unnecessary. That icy attitude set the tone for what would become a showcase in poor professionalism. As the show went live, the audience quickly sensed that something was off. Kimmel's introduction of DeVito lacked his usual charm and enthusiasm reserved for big-name guests. When DeVito stepped on stage, full of energy and warmth, the host barely stood to greet him, offering a limp handshake that seemed more obligation than welcome. The contrast was glaring. DeVito, gracious and upbeat, Kimmel distant and seemingly irritated. The interview began with routine questions about DeVito's film, but it didn't take long for Kimmel's tone to shift. Rather than focusing on the project, he started asking strangely pointed questions about DeVito's early career, questions that felt more like subtle digs than genuine interest. "You've been at this forever, Danny. Ever think about slowing down, letting the younger guys have their turn?" Kimmel asked, smirking. The crowd laughed awkwardly, but DeVito kept it professional. "I'm just getting started, Jimmy," he replied with a smile. "This work keeps you young. If you love it, you stick with it." Kimmel didn't let up. "Sure, but let's be honest, some of those early roles. Didn't you play a lot of oddballs and outcasts?" he said. The comment hit like a cheap shot, and for a brief moment, DeVito's smile slipped. "I played characters with heart," he said calmly. "Every role is a chance to tell a story, whether it's a king or a cab driver." The audience applauded, but Kimmel's expression turned cold, his eyes narrowing. Kimmel's eyes narrowed, as if annoyed that DeVito hadn't taken the bait. According to insiders, the host appeared set on throwing his guest off balance. "He gets like that sometimes," a stage manager shared. "If a guest doesn't go along with his routine, he starts pushing harder, almost like he's trying to prove he's the one in charge." That's exactly what followed. Kimmel abruptly shifted focus, bringing up an old rumor about DeVito's on-set behavior from a classic sitcom. "So Danny, there's this story that you used to, what, throw tantrums when things didn't go your way. Want to clear that up?" The unexpected accusation quieted the audience, who sensed the shift from lighthearted to confrontational. DeVito leaned back, his usual grin replaced with calm resistance. "Jimmy, I've been doing this for over 50 years, he said steadily. "You hear all kinds of stories, most of them nonsense. Anyone who's worked with me knows I show up, do my job, and treat people with respect." His reply was composed but carried a subtle warning, one Kimmel chose to ignore. "Oh come on Danny," Kimmel pushed, leaning forward. "You're telling me you've never lost it on set, not even once? Hard to believe." The tension was now unmistakable. DeVito tilted his head slightly, eyeing Kimmel with a quiet intensity. I'm saying I don't waste energy on drama, Jimmy. I save it for the work. Maybe you should try that sometime. The crowd broke into applause, some even cheered. Kimmel's smile didn't quite reach his eyes as he leaned back, clearly unsettled, but unwilling to drop it. Wow, okay tough guy, he said sarcastically. Guess you're just too perfect for the rest of us. At this point, the segment was on shaky ground. DeVito, still composed, attempted to shift the conversation back to his film. He began sharing a thoughtful story about working with the young director, only for Kimmel to cut him off mid-sentence. Yeah, that's great, he interrupted. But let's get to the good stuff. You and your wife Rhea, you've been together forever. What's the secret, or do you just stay together for the cameras? The tone was dismissive, and DeVito's jaw tensed. The audience shifted uneasily, picking up on the increasingly hostile energy. I'll tell you Jimmy, DeVito said, his voice calm but firm. Rhea and I built a life together, raised kids, made meaningful work. That's not a punchline, that's real. I'm here to talk about my work, not fuel your tabloid material. The response drew stronger applause from the audience. Kimmel, clearly thrown, tried to recover with a forced laugh. Oh relax Danny, it's just a joke. You know comedy, this is a comedy show. But the room wasn't laughing. Off stage, the producer was signaling urgently for a commercial break, sensing the conversation was slipping out of control. As the show cut to commercial, the tension backstage was palpable. DeVito sat quietly, eyes downcast, while his publicist spoke quickly into his ear. On the other side, Kimmel huddled with his executive producer, gesturing tensely, face flushed with frustration. Crew members later shared that the producer pleaded with Kimmel to de-escalate, warning the segment had gone too far. But Kimmel, defiant, brushed it off, muttering something about not letting DeVito take over the show. The audience, still buzzing from the charged exchange, sensed the conflict wasn't over. As the countdown to return from break began, the pressure built. When the cameras came back on, Kimmel forced a smile, but it looked strained, as if he were barely keeping it together. DeVito meanwhile, sat upright, his face unreadable but firm, like someone who had decided he wouldn't be pushed around any longer. Kimmel opened the segment with a strained joke about the weather, clearly attempting to lighten the mood, but the crowd's reaction was lukewarm. He quickly shifted focus back to DeVito, and any hope of a reset disappeared. So Danny, Kimmel said, his tone edged with sarcasm, you're this big-time producer now, huh? Always sunny, all those projects, ever get tired of playing the boss, calling the shots? The comment was clearly intended as a dig, casting DeVito as some kind of control freak. DeVito remained composed. Producing's about teamwork, Jimmy, he replied calmly. It's about bringing people together to create something meaningful. I don't boss people around. I work with people who share the vision. His even tone only seemed to frustrate Kimmel further. Yeah, but you've got a reputation, Kimmel continued, leaning in like a prosecutor. People say you're, let's say, intense, like you won't take no for an answer. That accurate? The mood shifted again, the audience sensing tension returning. DeVito's eyes narrowed slightly, though his voice stayed measured. I'm passionate, Jimmy. When something matters, you fight for it. You'd understand that if you ever took a risk on anything original. The comment hit its mark, a subtle but sharp critique of Kimmel's predictable show format. The crowd reacted with a mix of gasps and applause, while Kimmel's grin disappeared. Oh wow, okay, he said tightly. So now you're the artist, and I'm just some hack. That's rich, from a guy who's been writing the same sitcom for 20 years. The shot landed, and for the first time, DeVito's calm slipped. Always Sunny is still going, because people connect with it, he replied sharply. We take chances, we tell stories most won't touch. When was the last time you did something that scared you, Jimmy, besides bombing in front of your own audience? The room erupted again, some clapping, others murmuring in disbelief. Kimmel's face reddened, and he gripped his desk like he was trying to stay grounded. The show's producer, now visibly distressed, was motioning frantically to cut, but Kimmel pushed ahead. You know what, Danny, I don't need a lecture from you, Kimmel snapped. I've done this show for years, dealt with egos bigger than yours. You think you're untouchable, because you're a Hollywood legend. Newsflash, legends fade. Silence fell across the room. The venom in Kimmel's tone had clearly shocked the crowd. DeVito leaned forward, his presence suddenly commanding. "I don't think I'm untouchable, Jimmy," he said quietly, but firmly. "I think I deserve respect, just like anyone else who walks onto this stage. You're the one acting like you're above it." Kimmel scoffed and rolled his eyes. "Respect? You want respect?" he shot back. "Try not sending your team with a list of demands before you even show up. Don't ask this, don't bring up that. What are you trying to hide, Danny?" It was a low blow, suggesting DeVito was dodging honest questions like some out-of-touch diva. DeVito's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "My team works with yours to make the show run smoothly," he replied. "That's how it's done. If you've got issues with that, take it up with them, not me." "Oh, I'm taking it up with you," Kimmel shot back, his voice rising. "This is my show, my rules. You don't get to stroll in here and act like you're doing me a favor." The audience was silent now, the discomfort in the room unmistakable. DeVito didn't blink. "I came here to talk about a film I'm proud of," he said, his voice steady but pointed. "If you're not interested, maybe I should find a..." The tension was undeniable, and for a moment, it seemed like DeVito might walk off the set entirely. The producer, now rushing toward the stage, signaled for another commercial break, and the cameras cut just as Kimmel prepared to respond. The second break did little to ease the pressure backstage. DeVito's team was deep in discussion, considering whether to pull him from the rest of the segment. But DeVito remained in his seat, his expression calm but firm, waving off his publicist's urgent suggestions to leave. "I'm not going anywhere," he reportedly said, his tone quiet but unwavering. Meanwhile, Kimmel paced behind the scenes, dismissing his producer's repeated efforts to calm the situation or steer things in a safer direction. "He's not making me out to be the bad guy," Kimmel snapped, loud enough for nearby crew members to overhear. According to the stage manager, the tension felt like it had sucked all the air out of the room. When the show returned from break, the energy in the room had shifted. The audience, once enthusiastic, now sat in quiet anticipation. Kimmel, looking visibly agitated, skipped the small talk. He leaned in, eyes fixed on DeVito. "Okay, Danny, let's stop pretending," he said sharply. "You act like you're above it all, but what about the real you? Word is you've got a history of shady deals, cutting out partners, and walking away clean." The allegation came out of nowhere, and the audience audibly reacted. DeVito's face tensed, but he stayed composed. "That's a serious accusation, Jimmy," he replied, his tone controlled. "You got any evidence, or just throwing things out there to see what sticks?" The challenge landed. Kimmel hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by DeVito's directness. "I'm just saying what people say," Kimmel deflected, his usual confidence slipping. "You've been around a long time, there's got to be something." DeVito leaned in, his voice steady. "People say a lot of things, Jimmy. That doesn't make them true. I've built a reputation on reliability, not backstabbing. If you're looking for dirt, maybe check your own record." The crowd responded with loud applause, some even rising to their feet. Kimmel's expression darkened. "Oh, that's rich," he fired back. "You're going to stand there and preach about trust with your whole lovable Danny act. Everyone knows it's just a mask." The personal jab was harsh. For the first time, DeVito's composure cracked. He stood, his presence commanding. "I'm done here, Jimmy," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the silence. "I came to talk about my work, not be insulted on national television. If you want to take cheap shots, fine, but don't act surprised when it backfires." Kimmel laughed, but it rang hollow, his confidence clearly shaken. "Oh, what, you're walking out now?" he shouted. "Figures, can't handle a real conversation." DeVito didn't flinch. "A conversation goes both ways, Jimmy. What you're doing, that's not it. I'm not sticking around for this." He turned and walked off, prompting the audience to erupt in cheers, many chanting his name. Kimmel, now visibly rattled, stood and tried to speak over the crowd. "Yeah, go ahead, leave," he called out, his voice strained. "That's what you do when things get tough, right?" But by then the moment had passed, and the damage was done. DeVito paused, and slowly turned back, eyes sharp. "You think I'm running?" he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "Oh." I'm walking out because I've got better things to do than feed your ego. You're not being a host, Jimmy. You're just acting like a bully who's forgotten how to do his job." The comment hit hard. Kimmel's face went pale. The producer, now on stage, attempted to de-escalate, but Kimmel brushed past him. "You don't talk to me like that," he snapped, his voice unsteady. "This is my show." DeVito remained calm and stepped forward. "Then act like it," he replied. "Stop making a scene." The audience stood, some cheering, others stunned into silence. The director, realizing the segment couldn't continue, cut to another commercial, but not before the cameras captured Kimmel's stunned expression and DeVito's firm stare. Backstage, things quickly unraveled. Security appeared, apparently at Kimmel's request, to escort DeVito out. "You'll need to come with us," one guard said. DeVito raised a hand. "I'll leave on my own terms," he replied, his voice calm but firm. The guards paused, unsure of how to proceed. DeVito's team quickly gathered around him in support. The hallway was filled with tension, egos, and adrenaline. DeVito walked toward the exit with quiet composure, head high, as the guards followed closely. Crew members looked on, some shaking their heads at Kimmel's behavior. A few murmured words of support as DeVito passed. Kimmel, not willing to let things go, rushed after him, his tie loose, his expression a mix of anger and urgency. "Danny, wait," he called out, his voice echoing in the corridor. "You can't just walk out like that." DeVito kept moving, but his publicist shot Kimmel a sharp look that made it clear the conversation was over. The head of security, caught between Kimmel's orders and the optics of stopping a respected guest, moved to block DeVito's path. "Mr. DeVito, we need you to wait. Jimmy wants to talk." DeVito stopped and turned to face him. Though small in stature, his presence filled the hallway. "Then talk's done," he said, voice steady. "Unless you're planning to physically stop me, I'm leaving. Your choice." The guard glanced between Kimmel, now just behind, and the producer, who was urgently shaking his head. After a pause, the guard stepped aside, and DeVito continued walking. Kimmel followed, still pushing for a resolution. "Come on, Danny, don't be like this," he said, trying to sound composed. "It's just TV. Things got a little heated. It happens. Let's shake hands and move on." At the exit, DeVito placed his hand on the door, then turned back one final time. "Jimmy, you're missing the point," he said, voice low but direct. "This isn't about things getting heated. It's about respect. You disrespected me, your audience, and your staff tonight. That's not just bad TV. That's you failing to do your job." The words lingered. Kimmel's expression cracked. "Failing," he repeated, voice rising again. "I've been doing this for decades, and you think you can walk in here and lecture me just because you've made some films?" DeVito didn't blink. "I think I can call things out when they're wrong," he said. "You had the chance to have a real conversation tonight. Instead, you turned it into a performance. That's on you." With that, he pushed open the door and left, his team behind him. Kimmel remained in the hallway, speechless. For once, the fallout was immediate. Clips of the confrontation spread across social media like wildfire, amassing millions of views before the episode had even finished airing. Hashtags like #Kimmel Unraveled and #Team Danny began trending globally as fans and industry insiders broke down Kimmel's apparent meltdown. Encouraged by DeVito's composure, crew members started anonymously sharing accounts of Kimmel's behavior behind the scenes, stories of him criticizing staff, ignoring guest boundaries, and reacting poorly when challenged. One anonymous writer alleged that Kimmel had a pattern, a method for breaking down guests who didn't follow his lead, something he reportedly tried with DeVito, with disastrous results. By morning, the network was scrambling. A vague statement cited scheduling changes and announced a short break for Jimmy Kimmel Live, but insiders revealed that network executives were furious, with some pushing to suspend Kimmel indefinitely. DeVito, meanwhile, remained composed. His team issued a short message: "Danny appreciates the support and is focused on his upcoming." When asked directly for comment, DeVito simply said, "I said what I needed to say," before resuming his press tour. The incident shifted how Hollywood viewed Kimmel. Publicists began steering clients away from his show, unwilling to risk the unpredictability. When the show eventually returned, ratings had dropped significantly, with viewers citing Kimmel's harshness as the reason. In industry circles, pulling a DeVito became a new expression, standing up to a hostile situation with calm and confidence. It was a nod to DeVito's resilience and professionalism, and for fans, a reminder of why he's respected, not just for his body of work, but for his principles in an industry that often overlooks them. Kimmel attempted damage control by posting a brief apology on social media, blaming the moment on miscommunication and strong emotions, but the apology fell flat. Responses were filled with praise for DeVito and criticism of Kimmel's unwillingness to fully take responsibility. The polished image Kimmel had built over the years began to crack. The confrontation revealed something that had long been whispered in the industry. Behind the charm was someone who needed to maintain control, and who faltered when that control was challenged. What's your take on this surprising clash between Danny DeVito and Jimmy Kimmel? Did Kimmel go too far, or was DeVito's response too strong? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more straightforward Hollywood coverage. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss an update, and we'll see you in the next one.